Well, good evening, folks, or good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Quincy Kane here, and this is live stream number 51, and hoping for this stream to talk about some of our favorite albums in general, like the albums we grew up with. I thought that'd be kind of a neat thing to look back at. I think it's neat how some of the albums you grew up with can sometimes be a little different than maybe what you normally listen to now. However, I find that a lot of those albums still hold kind of a special place in your heart. You know, I know for sure a lot of the albums I grew up with still mean a lot to me. So, Sasha, I appreciate you stopping by. I know it's like super late where you are right now. Hopefully, I can play one song for you. It's kind of funny because you were just Sasha and I were just talking. So before I started the stream, I was doing some tests, and I've actually got things set up where I may start doing some reactions. I still plan to perform, but maybe, you know, we'll take a break and react to some things. So I'll talk more about that later, but he was kind of sharing some suggestions, and you're mentioning a lot of like really heavy bands and stuff. So, but this first song I have might not be my heaviest song, but hopefully you still enjoy it. So yeah, I'm going to dive into a song, but if you're joining us, don't be shy, say hello, and we're going to talk about some of our favorite albums in a moment here. But yeah. Here's the first song. This one is called Say That It's Over. Your smile so deceptive that it almost looks real. Well, it must be hard to fake what you do not really feel. You're hiding, I know it. Tell me what's on your mind. I only wish to help. Won't you let me back inside? Say that it's over. Tell me the truth just one last time. I promise I'll help you. If only you'll let me back inside. Let me inside. Your face shows no reaction when I call out your name. Your presence like a ghost. You seem so far away, and you know that I love you, but the words seem to have died. I just want this to end. Please let me back inside. Say that it's over. Tell me the truth just one last time. I promise I'll help you. If only you'll let me back inside. Let me inside. Don't drift your eyes, just look at me when I look at you, because you must realize you're barely holding on and I'm holding tight. Would you just please try? Don't give in, you have to fight. Why won't you hear my cry? I don't wanna say goodbye. Say that it's over. And tell me the truth just one last time. I promise I'll help you. And if only you'll let me back inside. Say that it's over. Tell me the truth just one last time. I promise I'll help you. If only you'll let me back back inside, say that it's over. I don't wanna hear another lie, I just wanna help you. Please won't you let me back inside? Thank you. Let's see what's going on in the chat. And stop this before the next song. There we go. Treatments. Yeah. Can't start with say that it's over. It's like, it's going to be a short show. Yep. Stan's living the dream. Sounds good. I would love to know how you split the guitar and vocals. In your mind, okay, yep. Yep, Sasha's asking, I've been able to improve that. You also don't seem to need to look at the fretboard at all. Well, I appreciate that, yeah. Okay, yeah, so playing guitar and singing at the same time is definitely a challenge. Definitely takes some practice. Few things. By the way, sorry if you're hearing some of that kind of background noise. It's my my preamp. I'll have to clean that up later. So, okay, but here's how that works. So, first off, you got to know each part independently, like very well. So if you're trying to sing a song, you've got to know how to play it very well. You've got to be very comfortable with the song. Like, you should not be struggling to play the song on the guitar. You want to be pretty familiar with it. And then the same thing goes with the vocals. You want to make sure that that you know the song. You know the lyrics. You're not having to like remember the words and stuff. Like you can sing them pretty consistently, and kind of learning like how to sing it like the best way. It's kind of like whenever you first learn a song, you sort of have to coordinate your breathing. So I always feel like whenever I learn a song for the first time, even if it's one of my songs, if I'm first learning how to sing it, I can get out of breath pretty easily. Just kind of. And the song can be kind of challenging to sing because I just don't have that coordination yet. But the more familiar you get with the song, the more you practice, you get a bit more coordinated and you're able to sing more efficiently. So it goes both ways with your voice and your guitar. So that's the first thing. And it varies from song to song, so it really depends on the kind of song you're playing. To be honest, a song like that is probably an easier one because I'm playing a lot of power chords. As far as like how I don't seem to be looking at the fretboard, you might be surprised how often I'm actually looking. It's just that a lot of times I'm looking with the corner of my eye. So like the mic is here, but even though I'm singing this way, I'm looking down like that and just kind of eyeballing. And I will comment, like tonight I'm wearing my my glasses, but it's a lot easier when I have my contacts because when I have my glasses and I look out of the corner of my eye, I'm not looking through my glasses, so my guitar is actually kind of blurry. So it's a little bit tougher with glasses, but with contacts, it's like, wow, I can see my guitar like super clear, so that's nice. So you kind of just use the corner of your eye, and it just depends on there's certain sections where sometimes you can sort of get away with not really looking at the guitar, and then there's some parts where it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to look. So you kind of keep your mouth glued to the mic as best you can. And you kind of look down as best and try to get the best visual that you can. For the more technical songs, sometimes it just takes practice. I'm gonna hop back here real quick. But sometimes it can be kind of tedious. Like you got to practice like a line at a time. So one example, I've got a song called Waiting that's a bit more technical. So like the verse riff goes, it's in a 5 count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It swishes. So I got to sing over top of that. So this is where we are. Where else have we been? Now what's nice, that's a riff that I actually can kind of play without looking. And it's because my hand kind of has to stay locked in this place. So that's one benefit to this particular song. But coordinating that voice, so like that first word is just so you just practice that. 1, 2, here we go. So You do it again. So, and sometimes you got to slow it down. So, 1, 2, and again. Sorry, that's hard to count, sorry. This is where we are. So, this is right there. This is, man, this is, hold on, I'm like trying to break it down now. This is where we are. But sometimes you'll take a line like that and you just repeat it over and over again. This is where we are. This is where we are. This is where we are. And that's what it takes. And you're just developing that muscle memory, you know, kind of like you do with guitar. The same way with guitar, where you might practice a phrase like, you just do it over and over again. You know, that's just like one part of a solo. So it's the same thing with your voice. And once you get that, then you move on to the next line. This is where we are. Where else have we been? That one has a transition. Where else have we been? And yeah, and piece by piece, little by little, you kind of build up that coordination. Now, what's nice, that might sound like, wow, that's got to be a really tedious process. But a lot of it carries over to other parts in other songs, or other parts of the same song. So if you work on one verse, usually the next verse, like, is going to have the same coordination, you know, so it's a little bit easier. Same thing, all your courses are the same. So it's really just a few sections that you have to learn, and then you kind of have the coordination to handle the rest of the song. So, yeah, so those are kind of the best tips I can give as far as, like, you know, practicing and learning how to coordinate singing and playing guitar at the same time. Stan says he can relate to the glasses. Yep. Let's see here. Line at a time. Gotcha. Yep. Still, it's not too impossible. You know, I would say, you know, start with easier songs. Like, start with songs that are not that hard to play on guitar. So, you know, you might be, you know, I don't know your skill level exactly, but you might be like a great guitarist who can play really difficult stuff. But don't start with that. Start with like just easy power chord stuff, and start learning how to sing with that. And as you get more comfortable with that, then you you know, you move on to more technical songs. So landing the right note at the time. Yep, sometimes that helps. Yeah. Sometimes those transitions can be tricky. Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Yep. But yeah, it can be a little tedious, but you might be surprised how well it comes. Hey, Daniel, thanks for joining us. Just stopping by for a second, grabbing some Burger King, then leaving Dallas. Man, do you have time for me to do a song for you, or you gonna have to slip out of here in a moment? You know, because if you have time, I'll dive into another quick song real quick. But Daniel, we were just talking about singing and playing guitar at the same time and that coordination. And basically, the breakdown is you've got to learn each part individually. You know the song well as a vocalist and know the song on guitar. And it might be best to start with easier songs first. You know, songs that aren't super technical on the guitar. And then you basically just practice one line at a time, and you're trying to kind of sync it up. And it does sort of depend. Like, sometimes you can break it down note by note, like where you kind of figure out which notes you're landing on. And if you do that, you might sing just part of the song. Like, you know, I was singing a line there, but it is true that sometimes you might sing like just a couple words that are syncing up with what you're playing with the guitar. And you're just kind of getting a feel for that, and then you sort of continue. And sometimes you need those notes to kind of like lock into the rhythm, so that you can sing the rest of the phrase without messing up. But definitely, you know, give that a shot, Sasha. Practice that, and I think you'll find that it's not like as impossible as it might seem. Nice. Yeah, I love the faceless. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I think I might remember you commenting on some of those. rhythmic subdivisions, yep, those can be tricky. But yeah, if you've got the technicality to play that stuff, again, just take a step back and go back to some simpler stuff, just some things that are just like simple power chords and that kind of thing, and try singing along with that first. And it can be a little tricky playing along with the notier stuff. And truth be told, a lot of that stuff, like faceless stuff, I haven't sang along with too much of that. Like obviously songs like that have those breaks, like even in the faceless, there's certain sections where he'll sing clean vocals, and usually those are sections where the guitar is doing something that's a little easier to sing over. But as for like could I play a full faceless song and perform vocals over that as well? I'm not really sure. That would be pretty challenging. So yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good challenge. I can say like the kind of music that like right now, the kind of music that I'm promoting myself as is more alternative metalcore kind of stuff. But I do hope in the future to branch out and do other musical projects, and I'd love to do like a technical progressive metal project, with stuff more akin to the Faceless, Extol, Between the Buried and Me, that kind of stuff. And but if I were to do that, that's a good question about the vocals, like, I don't know, would I be able to play that stuff and sing at the same time? I'm not sure, so I'll have to experiment with that some myself, but let's see here. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me just see if I can do a song real quick. Yeah, well, what are you ordering, Daniel? Let us know what you're ordering, and I'll go ahead and dive into another song real quick. This one's actually an instrumental, speaking of technical stuff. Yeah, I'll check out that song. There's definitely some pretty impressive players out there. I can't remember. I feel like recently I saw someone, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's singing and playing that at the same time, and I was like super impressed, And I think Silosis is one of those bands. Josh Middleton, like the guitar is like shredding, and then you realize, oh my gosh, he's singing and playing. Well, he's doing the harsh vocals, and while he's playing that, it's like really impressive. All right, here we go. Texas Whopper. Sounds pretty good. I love a good burger, man. All right, this one's called Ascension. This one's an instrumental, so I won't be able to demonstrate playing and singing at the same time, but hope you enjoy it. This one goes out to Daniel and Texas Whoppers. Thank you. All right, let's see what we got here. Stanley says, show off to Daniel for ordering the Texas Whopper. It's insane, too. Weird time signatures, crazy tech death riffs, and super tight gutter rules. Yeah. I know I've listened to a couple, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, necrophagist, I think is what it is. But I've definitely, there's a couple songs by them I'd heard. And again, just because I know they were pretty influential to the Faceless and stuff. But you're right, they've got some really impressive, really tight guitar playing, really good riffs and stuff, and some pretty sweet vocals too. Let's see. Oh, no way. Works with a friend of yours. BMW as an engineer now. That's really cool. Yes. So this particular song, I wrote that in. So for the harmonies, kind of Iron Maiden. Yeah. This was. I wrote this probably back. I'm trying to think. This was probably like. I was very much into metalcore, but probably like early in my heavy metal, like technical metal stuff. So before I got into like much technical things, it was, my breakthrough in metal were bands like August Burns Red, Killswitch Engage, All That Remains. And then those were like the top three for me, but then some other ones, As They Lay Dying, who else was it? Mutiny Within, just good old like metalcore stuff. And so I think a lot of those bands kind of had some of that harmony influence too. And so that song is definitely kind of metalcore, but you could hear a few like technical parts in there. And I think that was me sort of first experimenting like, how do you write that kind of music? Because the first time I heard like Between the Buried and Me and Periphery and the Faceless, I was like, man, how do you even write stuff like that? And so this was definitely one of the earlier songs. So it was kind of, it's very much metalcore, but it was me experimenting with like that kind of technical playing for the first time. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed having those kind of harmonic sections, especially for like an instrumental. It's nice to harmonize with the melody. I feel like that's such a simple thing you can do for the melody is, just adding another guitar layer, doing a harmony for it. So I don't know. Harmonies always sound great. So let's see here. Stanley's talking about bacon on. So let's see. Yeah. Stanley appreciates my showmanship, so I'm glad someone does. I'm working on it. I'm trying to. I had my first live show just a couple, probably about a month ago now, and I had some recording of it, and I did okay. Some of my, if you hadn't heard the story, so when I went to play my first live show. Right as I was about to go on, I had a little loop in my guitar cable, and I was trying to undo it, and I pulled my gear off the table, like right as I was about to go on. So something kind of got jacked up with my my audio after that. Like I got everything set up, and eventually I got it working. I was coming through, but that kind of shook my confidence a little bit. So I was trying to come out like very confident and like put on like some good showmanship, but it was a little tough to kind of like. Have that confidence after like that kind of embarrassing mishap and stuff. So, but yeah, so I didn't do too bad, but it's helpful to see footage of yourself performing because then you can kind of see like what's good, like oh that's good, I'll have to do more of that, and then you'll have to see like ooh that's bad, don't do that, So it's helpful to kind of see yourself on camera and to work on your stage presence. So I'm still practicing, but thanks, Stan. I'm glad you appreciate that. Daniel, you might be gone now, but always appreciate you stopping by. Yep, hope you have a great night. You take care. You be safe out there. Yeah, that's unfortunate that they didn't make much money from their releases. I mean, music in general, it's tough making money from music, and especially in like a genre like technical death metal. It's going to be hard to to have a sustainable career doing that. I've certainly been learning a lot about music career myself. Now it is possible. There are ways to do it, but you do have to. You do have to be quite a bit of a business person. Pretty much the main thing is, as a musician, you're going to need multiple streams of income. So, like, your music you can't just rely on, like, record sales, especially these days. You know, back then, like, yeah, they probably could have made some money from their releases, but nowadays, like, your music is pretty much just out there on YouTube for free, or Spotify, or wherever, you know. You don't make much music, or much money from actual music these days. These days, the big one, of course, is, like, merch, you know. If you build up an audience, and once you start making merch, you know, that's really where a lot of the money comes from. But there are some pretty creative ways you can do it. Probably the foundational stuff is merch, playing live shows, just tips. And eventually, you know, if you have kind of a community that you've built up, eventually starting some kind of service like a Patreon, where people can support you, and then you can provide like exclusive content for them in return for that. That's like kind of some foundational stuff, and then later there are opportunities like business endeavors. Like if you look at a band like Periphery, they've got like all these side businesses. They've got the what's it called? Get Good Drums. Basically, the drums they've recorded, they've made samples out of them, and they make MIDI packs also, and they sell the MIDI packs and the samples so that people can get like the same sounds in their bedroom studio. And then Misha's got what's it called? Horizon Devices, which is a brand. You know, they make some different guitar pedals. They make guitar strings and a few different things like that. So having these little side businesses that are kind of built off of your music, having all these different sources of income, collectively you can make a pretty good living and stuff. But so yeah, that's how that works. But it's unfortunate when there's someone like super talented that makes like awesome music and they're not able to keep doing it because finances are a problem, you know. So it's definitely so. I feel weird saying this because, you know, I'm an artist, so obviously, you know, I definitely appreciate the support that anyone gives me. But seriously, like whoever your favorite artists are, I'm not just talking about me, but like just remember to support your favorite artists. Like whenever one of my favorite bands puts out an album, I try very hard to buy the actual album, and I try to buy it from like not off of iTunes. If I can, I try to buy it from like a band store, like the website or something, because they'll get more of the money from that source than if you were to just buy it off of iTunes or something. But some of my favorite bands, I make an effort to buy like some of their merch or some of their CDs or whatever, just to keep supporting them so that they can keep making music. So yeah. Let's see here. Sorry if I'm a little behind here, but yep, harmonies are always good. Harmonies rock. Love Annihilator. Jeff Waters is great. Yep. Showmanship rocked either way. Appreciate that. I think one always notices more than the yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Let's see here. Yep, you got it. That's true. You got to be a good businessman. And Periphery is like the best example. If anyone's trying to make a career out of music, Periphery is a good one to look at. So they're good businessmen. And that's the thing. It's the music business. That's probably the hardest thing, is because as creatives, you know, we love the music part. That's our favorite part, is just making music. But the other part of it is business. So you really do have to learn like how businesses work and how to how to be financially stable to succeed. And you don't have to be famous to have a career. You know, you do need an audience, so you do need people like watching your music and supporting it. But yeah, it's just knowing how to best engage that audience and build like a loyal following, people who want to support you, and being able to put out things that like being able to give back to them so that they can support you in what you're doing. I don't mind you asking, how old am I? And yes, I do the same. I still get Yep, that's good stuff. Yep. I'm 30 years old, so, and it's kind of funny because trust me, you hear a lot in the music business of like age being a factor and things, and sometimes that makes me a little self-conscious. I'm like, oh man, I'm 30 years old and I'm still trying to make a career out of this. But actually, I feel more equipped for a career now than I did like 5 or 10 years ago. So 31, awesome. So about the same age as me. It's true that one thing I've learned is like age doesn't really matter that much. If you make good music and people connect with it, like that's all that matters. If you make good content that people enjoy, they're not really going to care that much what age you are, and especially whatever you're trying, whatever kind of music you're making, you got to know the audience that you're going after. And truth be told, my target audience, like people who are going to like the same music that I like, who connect with it, are probably going to be around the same age. Might be a little older, might be a little younger, but I'm not sure that my target audience are the teenagers of today. I'd love to have like some teenagers in the audience, that'd be great, because truth be told, especially in music, teenagers are the ones who decide what's cool, so if teenagers like my music and they're sharing it, it's like, sweet, that's good for me, but realistically, it's probably going to be people around my same age. Stan's 45, but who cares, it's like either way, we're all just, doesn't really matter what age, we all just connect over the same kind of music, and that's what's awesome. But that's kind of the cool thing, is over the past few years, like I've learned a lot about the business. I've worked on my craft as a musician and as a producer, just learning how to produce tracks, how to record and stuff. And so, it's just, I know I had a lot of friends who, when we were younger, a lot of them went right after a career, and it didn't really happen, like they tried it and they burnt out really quick. And so the one thing that I'm kind of banking on is I took the time to hopefully build a good foundation of just learning the business, building my craft and my, my skill set, so that when I actually go out to attempt this, like I have a good shot. I'm not just winging it. I'm not just hoping. I actually have a strategy, like, okay, here's what I need to accomplish, blah, 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 so. Let's see. Yep, definitely most fields. Knife making, gunsmithing, for sure. Yep. Always be yourself. Express yourself. Have faith in yourself. Do not go out and look for a successful personality and duplicate him. Bruce Lee. Yeah, Bruce Lee definitely had some wisdom in him. And that's a cool quote. I'll have to remember that one. But I think that's important. And I think people, especially audiences, connect with that, is, being a true version of yourself. Because if you're putting on kind of an act, then you're not going to be able to keep it up forever. At some point you're going to get sick, you're going to get burnt out. But being true to yourself, being who you really are. Now I will say, objectively speaking, you do have to be your most, if you're going to do like entertainment, music, you do have to be your most entertaining self. And that's something that's a little tricky for me, because truth be told, I'm very introverted, like I like being by myself and just like, playing my music, kind of being in my room, just creating stuff, But the truth is, if you want a career, like you got to be able to connect with people. You got to, you've got to know how to connect with people. And if you're going to be entertaining, you've got to be, so you've got to be the most entertaining version of yourself. So it's still, it's still being true to yourself, but you're understanding what you're trying to accomplish. You're understanding how to connect with people while being yourself. So, yep. Introverts unite, Stan is not an introvert. Stan, you are totally an extrovert, because that man can talk. But introverts and extroverts, we need each other. We balance each other out. It's helpful having kind of an extrovert to encourage you to be a little more encourage someone like me, to be a little more outgoing and stuff. So. Well, guys, I've really enjoyed the conversation so far. It's kind of funny because I had titled this stream with the intent of talking about some of our favorite albums. And I know, Sasha, you had mentioned some at the beginning. I tell you what, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to dive into another song here, but then I think after this one, we're going to talk about some of our favorite albums and stuff. So let me know two things. So let me know, what were some of the albums you grew up with, like as a kid? Like what are some memories you have? Like, man, these were the albums that were like the soundtrack to my life growing up. And then let me know, what were some of the albums that were sort of your gateway albums, like that got you into metal and rock and all that stuff. So you guys list some of that stuff for me, and I'm going to go ahead and go into another song while you're sharing that. This is a pretty new song. This is actually the newest song that I've written so far, but I have not released this song yet. But yeah, this one's called Erase Myself. Let me get set up, and I'll go right into it. I'm going to be honest, this song's got a high note in it, and I've been practicing. I can hit it, but, you know, it's a different story when you go to do it for real, you know. So we'll see how this high note comes out. Place your bets. Am I going to nail it, or am I going to bomb it?
The truth, and don't pull your punches, and I'll brace myself for all this pain, erase myself and start again. Grab a hold of me and throw me in the deep end. Show me the flame that burns inside of me, and I'll brace myself for all this pain, erase myself and start again, and I'll face myself with honesty, erase myself and start again. Yeah, yeah. Remain without the refiner. It's time to change what used to define me. Resist the pain, I have to keep fighting. Ignite the flame that's deep down inside me. It hurts at first, but worth all the pain. myself and not be ashamed. It hurts at first, but worth all the pain to see myself and not be ashamed. And I'll brace myself for all this pain, erase myself and start again. And I'll face myself with honesty, erase myself and start again. First one I'd give a pass. Second one was a little rough. All right. See what we got going on in the chat. Anyone joining us, don't be shy, say hello. We're going to talk about some of our favorite albums in just a moment here. Let's see. Check that out. Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden. Not one weak song. Yep, that's always good. Yeah, that's always cool. Like when you discover something, like what is this? You know. So that's pretty cool that you found that in your dad's car and then was like just blown away. Stan's you're positive, you know. I appreciate your optimism. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. So, I guess you get half your money back. So, because I think I got the first one all right, but the second one was a little rough. Tight riff. Thank you. Yeah, that's a fun riff. Chord selection. Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks, man. Yeah. And thanks. Yeah, good effort. Yeah, I'll keep working on it. It's for those high notes. There's a technique called mixed voice. So it's like when you're singing high, you don't want to strain for it. You don't want to be like, ah! You know, like that's not how you hit a high note. There's this technique called mixed voice, and man, when you do it, it's like it's almost easy. It's like, wow, I can hit that high note effortlessly. But then when you're doing it in the context of actually performing a song, that's where it can be a little tricky. Raul, thanks for joining us. Good to have you, man. Anyone else out there, don't be shy, say hello. Raul, I appreciate, you've been commenting on a lot of stuff lately, and I've appreciated your comments, so thank you so much. We're about to start talking about some of our favorite albums here. But thanks, Sasha. Yeah, that song's called Erase Myself, and it's not going to be my next release, but it should be coming up. I've got another song I'm planning to release first, but that one's definitely on the list to be released soon. Nicholas, good to have you. Thanks for joining us. So what we're doing now, yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll have to check out Power Slave for sure. I'm definitely familiar with Iron Maiden, but I'm not like extensively familiar with their material and stuff. So I know Number of the Beast and stuff, but I'll be sure to check out Power Slave because I always thought they had a cool sound. I definitely like a few of their songs. Nicholas, Raul, we're going to talk about some of the albums we grew up with. So definitely share, what are some albums that, like, when you were a kid and you were just growing up, like, what are some albums that you kind of think of as the soundtrack of your life at that time? So I'm going to talk about mine in a moment here. Yep. Cool. Yeah, it's been a helpful technique, mixed voice. I'm still learning it, so I wouldn't say I have it down. Like, I can do it. It's one thing to do it in practice. It's another thing to do it when you're actually performing. So, all right. So I'm going to talk about quite a few albums, and I'm definitely curious to see what you guys share. And what's cool about this is the albums that we all suggest, definitely you can read the comments and just kind of check out the stuff that people are talking about. So I did not grow up like with heavy metal and rock and stuff. Actually, my family that I grew up with,
a lot of my neighbors, just the community that I lived in, definitely kind of country music, maybe some pop music and stuff, but a lot of bluegrass country, that kind of thing. So I definitely grew up listening to a lot of that stuff. And for a time, I kind of liked it because that's just all I knew. But I think the first time I really, the first time I really like heard something that, well, let me take a step back. So one of the first albums I remember, like when I think back on my childhood, what I grew up with, and one thing that I still like would have to be, bam, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Signs of Life. So back then, when I remember going to bed at night, and we would always go to bed to music. And so we would just take a CD and we would put it in the CD player, and we'd go to bed and we'd listen to that whole album. And so this is just one album that I remember going to sleep to a lot. And if you don't know Stephen Curtis Chapman, I think he's a phenomenal songwriter. I still like this album. Looking back, he's just a really good songwriter. Now it's like it's full band stuff, but it revolves around acoustic guitar. But it's not, it's not country. It's kind of, I don't know. There's sort of different styles in there. There's like a little bit of, maybe a little bit of rock in there. Definitely some like kind of country influence and stuff. But it was a really cool, just like acoustic pop kind of style and stuff. And this album came out in the 90s. So, but yeah, it just had a lot of good songs, and definitely something that was like kind of the soundtrack to my life. I know this album. I know all these songs and stuff. Another honorable mention would be the album Declaration by the same artist, Stephen Curtis Chapman. So that was kind of one album I grew up with. The next one, this is kind of interesting. This was probably the first like music group that I guess you could say I discovered on my own. And this was like the first time I discovered an artist and was like, whoa, I like that. And they would be Plus One. So this was back in the boy band era. So imagine like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, that kind of stuff, late 90s, early 2000s boy band pop. And this was a group called Plus One. And I discovered them. It was actually a song from their first album. There was a music video that I saw on TV, and I heard a song from them for the first time, and I was like, wow, I really like that. And so that was like my favorite song. And then this album came out, and I asked my mom, like, can I get this CD, and she got it for me. And this is a great CD. Like, truth be told, like, yes, it's pop and stuff, but there's a lot of great songs on there. And what's kind of cool about it, you can even tell by like the aesthetic of the album cover. But there was a lot of rock influence in the album. So a lot of the songs had very like aggressive beats to them, and even a little bit of electric guitar in there, even though it was still boy band pop music. But yeah, that's another one that I grew up with that I just loved. And then probably the third one that was kind of like in my childhood would be Toby Mac. So this was around the time when like nu metal was sort of emerging. Now I wasn't very familiar with nu metal, but around this time, this is where people were starting to combine rap and rock and metal and that kind of thing. And so this album, like half of it is like hip hop and half of it is like rock. And I tended to favor more towards the rock songs. They had some pretty riffing guitar stuff, and then just a lot of like rap vocals over top of it. So this was just like a fun, high energy album that I just kind of grew up with, and it was a good one to just kind of, go out and just have fun. These albums, they were nice to just go out in the summer and have fun, just playing outside, skateboarding, whatever it was I was doing. Let's see what's going on in the chat here real quick. Yep, Eric Clapton. Yeah, Blink 182. I'm going to talk about some in Sum 41. Yeah, I'm going to talk about some punk in just a moment here. Raul grew up listening to Metallica, Iron Maiden, Megadeth. Yeah, that's pretty similar to what Sasha was saying earlier. Yep. That's a good top 3 to have right there. Cool. So yeah, so that was like my childhood. That's like when I was a kid. Just growing up and stuff. Now, as far as like how I got into rock and stuff, so that's kind of the next phase, I would say, is when I started developing my musical taste. So my cousin got me into skateboarding. And so, of course, we would go outside and skateboard, and then we'd come inside and we'd watch skate videos, and we'd play Tony Hawk's pro skater. So that got me into like punk rock and 80s rock, a lot of that stuff. So I was into AC/DC and Sum 41. I enjoyed that stuff, but I didn't have access to any of that music. But I was definitely becoming a fan of it. So probably like the first punk band. Okay, so what happened was my older sister, had this friend who started coming around. This friend would later on become her husband, so he's my brother-in-law. But at the time when he was just a friend, he came to visit, and he was kind of into skateboarding and rock music, and so he sort of like he saw that I was getting into this stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I got some music that you can check out." And he actually gave me a CD case with a bunch of CDs. Most of them were burnt, but one of my favorite CDs that he gave me was this one by a band called Relient K. Now, what's funny is I'm not very familiar with this album cover because all I had was the burnt disc. You know, it was just this like green, burnt CD or whatever. But yeah, Relient K, they were very much pop punk, very adjacent to Blink 182 and Sum 41, that kind of style. Now, what's funny is, Roddy Mullen. Yep, shout out to Roddy Mullen, my favorite skater for sure. Big influence on me. He was my favorite. So Relient K kind of got me into punk rock, and that's around the time when I was starting to learn guitar. So I started learning with power chords and just playing a lot of punk rock music and kind of writing my own songs based off this sort of same style. Now, to be honest, looking back, there's a few good songs on here, but I can't say this is my favorite album. I still like Relient K, but they have... I think they have better albums, but this was just the first one. This was the one I kind of grew up with, so to speak. Another album that he had given me, and technically this is an EP, it's not a full album, but Pillar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pillar, but this specific EP, it's called the Broken Down EP because it was acoustic. It was acoustic versions of their songs, but man, this was a really cool EP. Like it has a really cool sound. Like it's a rock album, but it's acoustic guitar. It's acoustic. It's still got bass and drums though, and it just had such a cool vibe to it. And this one was definitely very influential to me in my musical taste and my guitar playing. I learned some of these songs when I learned how to drop tune the guitar because they play in drop tuning. So I'm going to talk more about this album a little bit later, but that was definitely a good one that I grew up with. And then, of course, POD, Satellite, again, kind of around that nu metal time, but this is a great album from POD, and just a good one. You know, it was heavy. This was probably my first... This album and the Pillar one, the Pillar one, even though it was acoustic, the last song on it was a regular, like, hard rock song, and that had like some screaming in it. So that was probably my first exposure to like harsh vocals. And at first you're kind of like, whoa, I don't know what to think about that. But after a while you kind of get it. And you're like, man, that's pretty cool. That just matches the intensity of the music. So those were probably like my gateway bands into getting into rock music and like and slightly heavier stuff. Let's see here. Oh, that's cool. Yep. All right, let's see here. So, all right, after that, then I started getting, this is kind of where my hard rock phase started. So these are some, to me, I feel like this is where things really, really started. Again, through my now brother-in-law, he introduced me to a band called Chevelle, and I loved this album, Chevelle, Wonder What's Next. It's one of my favorite albums by them. It's one of my favorite albums ever. Just so many great songs. And this band is very influential to me. Again, I'll talk more about that later, but I just loved the aggression. And I remember this was kind of the first time I really noticed someone singing with grit. So I'll give you a little vocal lesson here, but you know, maybe you hear someone sing something like, and I'll brace myself. You know, they just sing it. But then you can add like this grit. When I'll brace myself. And the first time I heard someone singing like that, I was like, how is he doing that? He's like, it's almost like he's screaming and singing at the same time, you know? I didn't really understand like how someone could do that with their voice. But it just matched so well with the aggression of the music. And around the time I got into this album, again, I was playing more in drop tuning. And so I was learning how to play like, you know, actual riffs in drop tuning and kind of getting out of just chord progressions and learning more so how to write riffs. Another album, we come back to Pillar. This is the same band that did the EP that I mentioned earlier, but this was like an actual rock album, so it wasn't acoustic songs. This was like, you know, hard rock, alternative metal kind of stuff. And so again, this kind of got me into more like riffing, a little more like harsh vocal kind of stuff. Flyleaf. Flyleaf is another favorite of mine. I love this album. I just think the songs are so great. And at the time that this came out, like hearing Lacey Sturm, hearing her scream on the song "I'm So Sick," you know, I will break. It starts off like really soft and almost kind of creepy, and then she goes, "I will break," and like comes in with that scream. And hearing that for the first time, it was like, whoa, you know, it was just such a wow factor. And it's kind of funny because all these bands around this time, this was my screamo phase, and I referred to a lot of these bands as screamo, but the truth is they actually sang more than they screamed. Like, yes, they had screaming in them, but they still had a lot of singing in it. But this Flyleaf album, again, was a favorite of mine. And sort of like the big four, it was Flyleaf, and then this one, Red, End of Silence. Red is actually a really great alternative metal band, and they kind of have some like cinematic orchestral elements in their music too, which is really cool. But again, great singing and some of those harsh screaming vocals. Those two. Number 3 was Blindside. This is kind of a hardcore, punkish kind of, well, I don't know if you'd say punk, like alternative punk kind of sound, but again, sort of screamo, emo kind of stuff. But this was a great album, The Great Depression, that I grew up with. And then sort of the fourth one, this was like my big four back in the day. Flyleaf, Red, Blindside, and Underoath. Underoath was probably the heaviest thing I listened to at the time. This was straight up, this was screamo. You know, this was a hardcore, post-rock screamo kind of stuff. Actually, I don't think it was post-rock. But Define the Great Line, that was a great album. That was very much, you know, soundtrack to my life at the time. Radio channel called Rock and Teen. No main album. Yeah. Deep Purple. Yep. Yeah, and definitely, you know, if any of these kind of sound interesting to you, definitely check out some of these albums. These are some favorites of mine. But, and that's true, you know. It's tough sometimes to pick an album because sometimes, yeah, it is almost more like songs on the radio or whatever. But I think for me, I don't know. Interestingly, I grew up with albums a lot. Like, that's all I had. Like, you get one CD, and then that's all you have to listen to. And so you put it in the CD player, and you listen to the heck out of that song, that CD, just every single song, you know, because that's all you got, you know. You know, for me at least, that's how it was growing up. And so when I had friends and stuff, a lot of my friends were getting into this music too, and so we would share music with each other. Okay, so Underoath. That was like one of my favorite bands. They were on Solid State Records. And so here's where I start getting into metal. So I went to this Christian bookstore, and I found a Solid State DVD of all these bands from Solid State Records, and it had some music videos from Underoath and some music videos from some other bands. So I bought it. It was like on sale. And I was watching the music videos, and you know, some things were cool, some were hits, some were misses, but there was this one band on there called August Burns Red, and I remember seeing their music video for the first time, and this was the first time I heard metalcore, like straight up metal with double bass and like really heavy vocals, and the first time I heard it, I was kind of like, wow, I don't know what to think about that, you know, like I didn't know what to think about it, and I was kind of like, I was just unsure about it, and it was almost shocking, you know? Like, it was so intense, like, I didn't know what to think. But I remember walking away, and I just kept thinking about it, and I was like, you know, I kind of want to see it again. And so, like, I put it back in, and I watched the video, and I watched it again, and I was like, I think I kind of like this, you know? And so, sure enough, like, as I was getting into that, my friends were getting into metal, too. So, one of the first metal albums I got was August Burns Red, Messengers. Now the song I heard by them was actually from their first album. The song was called Your Little Suburbia is in Ruins. But this was the first full album I got by them, Messengers, and I loved it. It was intense. The drums are super inspiring. Matt Greiner is a phenomenal drummer, and I just never heard drums played like that before. That was probably the biggest influence. It was like, wow, those drums are amazing. And then here we go. This is going to come up a lot.
Killswitch Engage. Man, my friend gave me this album, Killswitch Engage, a burnt copy of this, As Daylight Dies by Killswitch Engage. And this changed, like, this was so influential to me as a guitarist, as a songwriter. This was an amazing album. I just loved the structure of Killswitch Engage songs. They had like these heavy riffs in the verses, and then the choruses were so melodic and catchy. And just, I don't know, the songs got stuck in my head, and they were emotional too, you know, like it was like there was heart, and like some of these songs could make you cry, you know, like they just, I don't know, I appreciated that vulnerability and that just emotional weight that the songs had to them. So that was a big one. And then finally, like the final three of like my metalcore introduction was All That Remains. Man, this was an album, the Fall of Ideals. I have to be honest, like I'm, you know, All That Remains kind of went a different direction with their music, and it was just kind of disappointing. And it's like, if that's what they want to do, fine, you know. But like when you hear this album, it's just a shame that they kind of drifted from this style, because this was phenomenal. Like, you know, great guitar playing, amazing drumming, and awesome vocals. Like, it was just such a good album. So All That Remains, Fall of Ideas. So those three, you know, August Burns Red, Killswitch Engage, and All That Remains, that was kind of my introduction into the world of metal. Let's see. Yep. Pink Floyd. Yeah, back then there wasn't much internet. You know, it was like the early stages of the internet. So, you know, music was just your CD. You bought a CD, and that's all you had to listen to. You know, that was your soundtrack for a while. You didn't have access to like whatever song you wanted, you know, and you had to burn CDs and kind of share CDs with your friends and stuff. Discman. Drums are tight on that. I'll have to check that out. Yep, Killswitch, yep. So for me, I love both vocalists. Jesse and Howard are both phenomenal vocalists. I was introduced to Killswitch. Again, the first album was As Daylight Dies. So I'm definitely, you know, I'm a Howard fan. But when Howard left the band, I'm glad that it was Jesse who replaced him. You know, Jesse being the original vocalist. Like, if anyone was going to replace Howard, I'm glad it was Jesse. And I really like Jesse. Like, I've since checked out some of his older stuff. He's a great vocalist too, and he's got a lot of just in his lyrics and in his vocal performance, he's got a lot of emotion and just rawness that I really appreciate. So I like both of them. Like, if I had to choose, again, for me it's Howard, just because that's what I grew up with. But I love both of them. But how about you? You Howard, you Jesse? How do you feel about those two? But yeah, Killswitch was huge for me. All right, I'm going to wrap this up in a moment here. So here's the thing. So those were the albums kind of growing me up. But let me ask you guys a question. And this is a tough question. But if you could choose 5 albums to define you as a person, you know, 5 albums that kind of describe, like, you know, who you are, like that, 5 albums that would be like the soundtrack to your life and describe like your personality and kind of who you are as a person, what would those 5 albums be? So leave a comment. What are your 5 albums that define you as a person? Children of Bodom albums, Hatebreeder, Follow the Reaper so much, Alexi. Nice, cool. So, yeah. So leave a comment. What 5 albums would define you as a person? Now, I have to say, for me, this was really tough. I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to do 2 selections of 5 albums. And here's what I mean. Because there's, you know, what are the 5 albums that define me as like a person? And to be honest, like, yes, I love metal, but there are other styles of music that I enjoy too. And there are other styles of music that have heavily influenced me. So if I was just picking 5 albums as a person, it's going to be kind of across multiple genres. But then if I were to pick 5 albums as an artist, you know, who I am as an artist, that's going to be a little more honed in to like what albums describe the sound that I tend to go after. So as a person, these would be my 5 picks. So here we go. So 1, I do like I do like pop music, believe it or not. So, yes, I love metal. I love heavy, technical metal, and that's my favorite genre for sure. If I had to pick one genre, it would be metal. But I do like. I like a good pop song. I like electronic music and like a good beat and stuff. So if I had to pick a favorite pop album, it would be that Plus One Obvious album. And again, I grew up with it, so a lot of those songs just kind of, maybe they're sentimental, maybe it's nostalgia, but either way, like I enjoy that album. Number two, I enjoy like acoustic music. I like piano. I play piano. You don't really get to play a whole lot of piano in metal. Now I do have some songs that will feature piano. I haven't released them yet, but actually I've got a video that I made for Halloween. It's some kind of creepy music video or something like that. I can't remember what I titled it, but it's like a 1-minute video that I did for a contest. And that's a song that I do plan to release in the future, but it's just a 1-minute snippet of the song, and it has piano in it, even though it's a metal song. So, but anyway, when it comes to like piano pop and like acoustic guitar kind of music, Ben Folds, man. So quick story about him. The first instrument I learned how to play was piano. But I didn't really like any piano music. I wasn't into classical. I wasn't into gospel. I wasn't into blues. And I hadn't heard much jazz at the time. But when I heard Ben Folds, I was like, whoa, this is rock music on a piano. And yeah, he's got other influences in there. Like he's got a little bit of blues in there, and he's got a lot of jazz in there and some classical and stuff. But it was basically just rock music on a piano. And so I made a friend in high school who gave me this album, Ben Folds Rock in the Suburbs, and it changed the way I played piano. I got a lot better at piano after I discovered Ben Folds. He's got a song for like every occasion. Like he's just such a phenomenal songwriter. So I love Ben Folds. Another honorable mention would be his album Super Sunny Speed Graphic, the LP. That might actually be my favorite Ben Folds album, but I think this one maybe, I don't know, this one maybe matches my personality a little more with the overall album, but I think some of my favorite Ben Folds songs are on that other one. So then when it comes to punk rock, like pop punk, that kind of stuff, I'd have to go with Relient K. I mentioned them earlier, but this album is called which is kind of funny, but I kind of hate that as an album. It's like, oh, I love Relient K. What's your favorite album? That's what the album is called. So it's like MMHMM. But this is just, I think this album matches my personality a lot. It's kind of a, it's got some heartfelt, tender songs, but then it's also got like these fun, high energetic songs, and they've kind of got like a clever, kind of quirky sense of humor that I think sometimes matches maybe a similar kind of humor that I have. So, and that's just a great album, great pop punk rock record. So that was one I kind of grew up with. That was a favorite of mine. I'm going to read your entries in just a moment here. And then next one, when it comes to metal, especially metalcore, got to go Killswitch Engage. Again, Killswitch Engage, just I love those songs, and they're very dynamic. They have like some of the heartfelt songs, but then they've got like the really heavy, aggressive ones too, and everything in between. So just a very dynamic artist. And then when it comes to like technical, progressive stuff, this was pretty hard, but if I had to pick one album, I think it would be Between the Buried and Me, The Parallax 2. And I really like this album because Between the Buried and Me, first off, they're a progressive metal band, so they just have so much, like it's such a creative album, and they combine like so many other genres within metal, this one style of music. And it's just a very inspiring album. So I think for me, just as a creative person, it's the kind of album that I just think, just matches my personality, my mindset, because it's heavy, it's got metal, but it's also very creative, it's very technical, it's got some pretty unique, interesting stuff in there. A couple honorable mentions for Between the Buried and Me. Got to mention the Colors albums. They did a Colors 1 and they did a sequel, Colors 2, and both of them are great. So both the Colors albums are awesome. Those are a couple favorites of mine as well. So those would be the 5 albums that I would say define me. I'm going to share another 5 in just a moment here. But let's see, Sasha has got, Raul's saying, that's a tough question. I didn't remember some of my favorite old albums. Yeah, it's tough, like it's and for me, I would say I'm more of a fan of maybe songs than albums. It's tough finding like an album that you actually enjoy like the whole thing. But yeah, Raul, if you can think of some, it doesn't have to be 5, but if you can think of like, here are some of my favorite albums that define me as a person, definitely share some. For Sasha, for number 1, we got Power Slave by Iron Maiden. I'll definitely have to check out that album because I like Iron Maiden. I'm not going to say I'm like a huge Iron Maiden fan, but I remember, what was it? There was a video game, what's it called? It's got Jack Black doing a voice of a character, and it's sort of like a open world RPG, and it's like about heavy metal. Brutal Legend. It's a video game called Brutal Legend, and they had a lot of like 80s metal as the soundtrack, and I remember really liking the Iron Maiden songs on that, so I'll definitely have to check those out. What else we got? Blackwater Park by Opeth. I do like some Opeth songs, so I'll be sure to check that one out too. NWO Straight Outta Compton. Okay, yeah, that's good stuff. Chaos, Committed to the Crime, pop music. Okay, cool. I'll have to check that out too. Looks like you don't have a pick for number 4 yet. I'm not sure what the asterisk is there for. And then number 5, Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd. Yep. That's definitely a good one to check out. But yeah, Ben Folds is one of my favorites. Again, it's like piano acoustic kind of pop rock music and stuff. And so if you check out some of his stuff, my favorite albums of his are Rock in the Suburbs and Super Sunny Speed Graphic, the LP. But he's also done some soundtrack stuff. I actually discovered him. He did a song for a movie called Hoodwinked. I don't know if you've seen that. It's actually a great animated film. But it's sort of a retelling of the story of Little Red Riding Hood. And there's a scene in the movie where Little Red Riding Hood is sad, and so he did a song for it called Red is Blue, because Red Riding Hood, and she's sad, she's blue, so red is blue. And I heard that for the first time, and I was like, man, that is beautiful. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I play piano. I should learn how to play that song. And then that was kind of the song. I looked up the artist, and I discovered, oh, Ben Folds, cool. I'll have to check him out. So let's see here. Back in Black. Now, is Back in Black, is that the name of the album that AC/DC put out? Because I know they have the song Back in Black. But I would imagine that is a good album. If that had like TNT on it also, then, and what's the other one? I don't know. If that's the one that's got like all their hits on it, that probably is a good album to go with. Let's see, my favorite too. Cool. So, yep. Anyone else watching? We're talking about our favorite albums. What are 5 albums that define you? So leave a comment. What are 5 albums that would be kind of like the soundtrack to your life? So for me, again, those albums that I just shared. Now, those are the ones that I would say describe me kind of as a person and sort of best encapsulate like all the different genres that I like. And it's really hard to do that because there's so many albums and songs and artists that I like, but I think those 5 do a pretty good job. But now for me as an artist, there are so many, influences. Like the 5 that I'm about to show you, these are not my only sources of influence. There are other artists, other albums, and even just songs. Like sometimes it's just one song and it's like, man, that is a cool song, and it inspires you as an artist. And plus, what genre are we talking about? Because, the artists who inspire me to write acoustic music are different than the artists who inspire me to write metal. And even metal, are we talking, metalcore, or are we talking like technical progressive metal? So just to keep things simple, for me, as an alternative metalcore artist, the kind of music that I play for you guys, if I had to pick 5 albums that I think best, define that, these would be those 5 albums. So if you enjoy my music, you might check some of these guys out. Here we go. Bam. So at number 1 at the top here, no particular order, but at the top here, the top left, we've got Pillar, the Broken Down EP. So again, it's just such a cool sound. It's not even like it's rock, but it's all acoustic. But one of the big things that was influential of that song or that album kind of was my introduction into drop tuning and also using 9th chords. So I'll show you real quick.
So if you look at my guitar here, trying to get it on camera. Okay, here we go. So if I play like a, and this is tough to do, like a power chord, you can play, I'm in drop tuning, so you can play a power chord with one finger, so. Okay? But if you take that chord and you add your ring finger right here, so down 2 strings over 2 frets, you turn all those chords into 9th chords. So let me show you what that sounds like. So here's regular power chords. And here's with the 9th. You hear how much more emotional that is? Like, it's got so much more character to it, you know? And I just love that, you know? And I love the way that sounds. And Pillar uses a lot of, like, 9th chords like that. And so a lot of, like, not necessarily the style of music, but more like the kind of chords and the kind of chord progressions and the kind of melodies. That's what was really inspiring to me as an artist from that. So that's definitely an influential one. Next one, we got Chevelle, wondering, this type of thinking could do us in. There are 2 Chevelle albums that I love. One was the one I mentioned earlier, Wonder What's Next, and that one is also super influential to me. But, you know, if I had to pick one of the 2, I think this is a good one right here. This is just a great album. It's got, like, heavy rocking songs, but then it's got kind of, like, some stripped-down ones, too. I really appreciate dynamics as an artist. You know, like, I mean, I love metal, but at the same time, my goal is not just to write the heaviest thing I can every single time. My goal is I'm trying to write songs, and I'm trying to express different kinds of emotions. So some songs are meant to be more upbeat and aggressive and emotional, or emotionally expressive. And some songs are meant to be more toned down and more heartfelt, that kind of thing, you know, and everything in between. So that's actually what I like about metal. You know, it's not like, yes, I love a good, heavy, chunky riff, but it's not just about being heavy, you know? It's not just about writing a sick riff. It's the what's the word I'm looking for? It's the flexibility that you have in the style. I feel like the style offers so much freedom of expression. Like, you can be as aggressive as you want, and you can be as, like, tender and soft as you want, and everything in between. So Chevelle is, like, very influential to me, especially like vocals, my singing, and that kind of stuff. And you know, some of my newest song, like, I just put out a song called Move On. So that one's very, like, you know, you can definitely hear some Chevelle influence in there. And even the song I played a little while ago, Erase Myself, you know, definitely some Chevelle influence in there. Next one we got is Flyleaf, and Flyleaf is just one of those bands, like, they write good songs, you know, and I love their songs. And even though they have a female vocalist, the way that Lacey sings is very influential to kind of how I sing, you know, or has influenced it in some way, you know. So I've definitely drawn inspiration from that, and I don't know, they just write good songs. That's all I can say is, like, they got good, hard riffs, but they're also really catchy. That's the thing. You know, Flyleaf is, like, very catchy, and to me that's important. Like, I love songs, and I like songs that get stuck in your head. So just, you know, being a good songwriter, and once again, you know, they've got songs that are heavy and aggressive, and then they've got songs that are very soft and tender. So that just means a lot to me. So that particular Flyleaf album is a favorite of mine. And then it's back, Killswitch Engage, As Daylight Dies. Again, this was just such an influential album to me. Probably the biggest thing, just that simple idea of song structure, of writing heavy riffs in the verses and then more melodic chord progressions in the chorus. So, for example, they have a song, My Curse. If you listen to the verse, you got this, like, really kind of chunky, aggressive riff, but then you get to the chorus, and it's more melodic. Well, it's not going to be melodic without me singing, but you have the singing there. You know, the chunky riff, you have more of the harsh vocals, and then you've got singing. You know, so, and if you listen to those chords, like, they're beautiful. Like, that's a beautiful melody there, beautiful chords, and that's really what just stuck out to me. It's like, wow, you know, it's metal, but they're playing like these really pretty chords, you know, and it's really cool taking like pretty chords and then speeding it up and adding distortion to it. It's just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just very emotional and I don't know. I love it. So it's, you know, I definitely use a lot of those chords and those kind of melodies and techniques in my own songwriting. And then lastly, I wanted to pick a technical artist. And this was tough because I love a lot of different technical progressive bands. You know, some honorable mentions would be like the Faceless Planetary Duality. That album is very influential to me. But I think for songwriting and for this particular style of music that I do, I think I got to go Sylosis. Sylosis and this album, Dormant Heart. Sylosis definitely influenced me in my my lead guitar playing. You know, for a long time, I didn't really care about lead guitar playing solos, but Sylosis got me into it. Sylosis like got me starting to learn how to sweep picking and learning how to shred. And so part of the reason I probably have solos in my song is very much because of Sylosis. You know, some of these other bands, like actually these other bands that I've listed, I think Killswitch is the only one that does solos sometimes. The others, they don't really do guitar solos, but Sylosis, yeah, they shred. And so that kind of inspired me in my lead playing. But again, they just have really creative, cool sounds. They're very technical. They're kind of thrashy. No, they are thrashy. And I definitely would not describe my stuff as thrashy. But again, the kind of chords they use, the kind of melodies they use, and some of their more like stripped down songs, or they're more like, you know, driving songs, like not the thrashy ones, just kind of the heavy ones. A lot of this stuff is very influential to me in my songwriting. And Sylosis is just one of my favorite bands. Like, I love them. They're very influential to me. So, yeah. So if you enjoy my music, you might check out some of these albums, some of these other artists. Those are some favorites of mine. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat, and then I'm gonna play another song for you guys. Let's see here. Interesting. Scott Walker. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look him up. Yeah, I think, you know, I'll have to check out NYXL again. I know I've looked up NYXL before, but I think that was a while back, so I'll need to listen to some of them. Stan saying Quiet Riot. You have an awesome ear. Thank you, Stan. I'm glad you... I don't even know how you can see my ear. I've got headphones on. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yep. I don't know. Yep. Great chords. Yeah, I love the chords that Killswitch use. Yep. I love My Curse. You know, that's a great song. And again, well, I mean, again, I love that album. So there's a lot of songs in there. I don't even know if I could pick a favorite Killswitch song. There's a lot of good ones. This is Absolution. That's one of my favorites. I'm going to draw a blank on all the titles right now, of course. Yeah, just check out that album, you know. But even some of Jesse's songs, you know, were really good. My favorite of Jesse's, Element of One. Like, that's a beautiful song. Yep. I discovered Sylosis in 2015, and that's the best thing that happened in my life. I discovered Sylosis, let me think. When did I discover them? I remember how I discovered them. I'm just trying to remember when did that happen. I think it was before Dormant Heart. So it was probably around 2012, maybe 2012, 2013. I remember how I discovered them. I had a friend who, she was just a big music fan, and she had this huge CD case with all, you know, just all these CDs in there that she'd collected. And I asked her one day, I was like, she was one of my best friends in high school. So one day I asked her, I was like, hey, can I borrow that CD case and just go through it and get some new music from you? And she was like, yeah, go for it. So I borrowed it, and so I'm going through her CD case, you know, just kind of trying out, like, kind of just seeing what catches my eye and just kind of checking out some artists, you know. And I got to this one CD, and it was SETLIST, and it was their, and what's the name of their first album? Or not their first album, but the one with Imperial on it. Give me just a second here. I'm going to look that up. I can visualize it. I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's their I think that album came out in 2011. Might be wrong about that. Where are they at? Sorry, I'm looking on my computer here. Edge of the Earth. That's what it's called. Yep. Saw this album. I thought the art on it looked really good. Sasha, I appreciate you sticking around as long as you did. I thought you were going to head out before we even continued, but I'll try to get to this song real quick for you. I'll try to play one more song for you. But yeah, I was going through that CD case, and it was the SETLIST album, Edge of the Earth, and I just thought the artwork on it looked really cool. I was like, I'll check this out. I put it in, and I was kind of blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? You know, it was just, the music was intense, it was technical, and I discovered them around the time that I was like starting to get into technical music, so it was like at the right time that I discovered them. But yeah, so I think it was around 2012, 2013 that I discovered SETLIST. And shortly after I discovered them, I listened to the heck out of that album. Their new album came out, you know, it might have been afterwards, because I know in 2012 they had the Monolith album, and I got that album. But I remember when Dormant Heart came out, Josh Middleton, the guitarist, he put out a lot of like YouTube videos teaching how to play those songs, and that's when my guitar game went up. You know, I got a lot better at guitar when I started learning some SETLIST songs. But yeah, so I think it was just a little before 2015 that I discovered them. But yeah, I love SETLIST. So, all right, Sasha, this one goes out to you. I'm actually going to give you a choice real quick, because I have two more songs. One is an instrumental, and one has singing in it. The singing one is my newest song, Move On. That's a song I just put out. Put it out earlier last week, and so I was going to perform that one. So I can do Move On, or, man, I'm trying to find my, oh, here we go. Or I can do an instrumental for you, and the instrumental is kind of a technical metal instrumental thing, so... Which would you like to hear? Would you like to hear Move? Now, the instrumental is a little bit shorter, so just keep that in mind. So would you like the instrumental, technical metal, or would you like to hear me perform my latest song, Move On, that I put out? Move On is now available if you haven't heard it yet. Stanley's voting for Move On. Either way, I'm still going to play Move On, Stan. I'm going to play both of them, but I just want to see which one Sasha would like to hear. Sasha wants to go with the instrumental, so let's do that one. All right. Let me get to it real quick. Yeah, so this one is kind of some technical metal. Had a feeling you'd probably kind of appreciate this one. All right, here we go. This one goes out to Sasha. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you have a good night. Hope you sleep well. And yeah, this one goes out to you. Thank you. Sasha, you have a good night. Awesome sound. Yep. Sounds good, guys. Yep, you take care. All right, so let's see. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. All right, so anyone else who's watching, again, appreciate you tuning in. We've just been chatting about our favorite albums, you know, what we grew up with. And so, yeah, so if you've got a favorite album that you grew up with, you know, definitely share. And we were sort of talking about, like, what are some albums that you would say define you? Like, what would be, like, your soundtrack to your life? So, you know, just share some albums, and we'll check it out. Thank you, Raul. I appreciate that. All right, cool. And then also, just to share some updates with you guys. So, like, here's what's been going on lately. So, first off, I'm trying to play more live shows now. So I'm currently trying to book my next gig. Been contacting a few places, and there's one place that they said they're going to book me, but they're not going to be able to do it till like October or November or something like that. So it's going to be a little while. But I'm starting to just kind of look at some venues that are local to my city, my town, and yeah, just trying to. Sorry, I got distracted by something. Okay, I see. But yeah, just trying to book some gigs. That's kind of the main thing I'm sort of working towards right now. I'm hoping to start making some more videos soon. Like I know I've been doing a lot of just live streams lately, but I'm trying to kind of come up with a plan for content. And start putting out some videos regularly. I don't think I can share too much about that yet because I'm still working on it. However, I will say before this stream, I was testing a setup to do reactions. I was thinking it might be kind of fun. Someone had mentioned it a while back, and I took note of it, but I hadn't had a chance to work on it. But I was thinking it might be fun on some of these streams when we're hanging out. You know, we can play a song and then maybe react to something, maybe watch a YouTube video or something and kind of react to it. So I'm still kind of working that out. But let me ask you guys, is that something you'd like to see? Would you be interested in watching that, like some reactions? And if so, you know, what are some things you'd like me to react to? Now, I'm probably going to post. I'll probably send out like an email, and on the YouTube community thing, I'll post like a, you know, like a poll or something, and people can kind of vote and sort of see like what should I react to, and you know, and share suggestions and comments and stuff. But that might be something we try for a little bit, and we'll see how that works out. So now I will say. I should keep in mind that I do these streams in a church, so whatever we react to, like I can't just react to anything. I do want to try to keep it like fairly appropriate, you know, just out of respect for the building that I'm in. But other than that, you know, as long as it's like some cool music or whatever it might be, yeah, we should be good to check it out. So that's that. Let me see if there are any other particular updates to share. Of course, I just put out my latest song, Move On, and some of the other songs that you've heard tonight. Well, only two of the other songs you've heard tonight are available. You know, they're available on Spotify, AppleMusic, you know, wherever you listen to music, you should be able to find it there. And I'm currently, you know, working on the next song to release. I know what the song is going to be. The song itself is pretty much ready to go, and then I'm just got to plan out like the video content that I'm making for it. So I should have. Now it is one you've heard before, so it's not like a totally new song, but I do have a new release coming y'all's way soon. So, but anyway. Guys, let me know if you have any questions about anything. If you have any topic suggestions, you know, I love hanging out with you guys. I love chatting. Even, you know, just earlier we were talking about singing and playing guitar at the same time, and I was kind of sharing some tips like how to do that. So if there's anything that you'd like to learn, anything you're kind of, curious about, like, hey, how do you do that? Or do you have any tips for this? Let me know, and I'll do my best to kind of share. If there's any topics, things that you'd like to talk about specifically, leave some suggestions for future streams and future episodes. And if you leave some suggestions, I'll write them down and try to do an episode around that in the future. So with that said, I do believe this is going to be the last song for the evening. So let me go ahead and play this song for you, and then we can all move on. So this song is called Move On. All right, yep, this is the new one. So if you haven't heard the song yet, well, here you go. But yeah, this is the latest song that I just released. So be sure to check out the lyric video too. If you haven't seen it yet, I did post a lyric video last week. So a lyric video for this song, Move On. Be sure to check that out. Come, stay strong. You can move on, so move on. See how far you've come. Stay strong. You can move on, so move on. See this bitter. Uh-oh. Darn it! My audio dipped out. Sorry, guys. All right, I think I fixed it. Verse 2. Taste and see this bitter memory. You once were so weak, but now you've been set free. Yeah! See how far you've come. Stay strong. You can move on, so move on. See how far you've come. Stay strong. You can move on, so move on. So move on. You find yourself at the end of your road. You know it's not over. When you find yourself at the end of your road, you know it's not over. You've been down this road more than once before, and it won't stop you this time. Come, stay strong. You can move on, so move on. See how far you've come. Stay strong. You can move on. Thank you. Is that Pablo in the chat? Pablo, always good to have you, man. Oh, thanks, dude. Pablo says, love the melodies on this one. Thanks, appreciate that, man. Let's see. Oh, whoops. Oh, sorry, my backing track is still going. Let's see here. I'm glad you like the song, Stan. Yeah, Pablo, always good to see you, man. Always glad to hear from you. Yeah, Pablo, I think it was your fault. I think you broke the sound, so. No, I'm kidding, of course. I don't know what causes it, but it happens sometimes where, I don't know if you guys heard it on your end, but, like, it'll, like, skip, and then my input will get out of sync. Like, my voice will be delayed and my guitar will be delayed. But it's an easy fix. You just have to pause the song and then start it up again. But it just kind of sucks that it happened, like, right in the middle of the song, so. Thanks, Raul. I'm glad you like the song. Again, that's the new one. That one's available, wherever you listen to music, and I'm glad it motivates you. It's a song about perseverance. It's a song about sometimes you get so focused, like you're working so hard towards something, and you feel like you're making no progress, and you're just like, everything's the same, just not getting anywhere. But if you take a step back and you just kind of look back at how far you've come, and you see like what you've actually accomplished, and like how much better you are at whatever it is you're working at, you might be surprised like how far you've come and how much progress you've made, and that can sort of motivate you to keep going and sort of say like, I am getting better, I am making progress, so stick to it, keep going. So that's kind of what that song is about, because we all find ourselves in those places where you feel a bit down, you feel like, I suck, I'm a failure, I just can't do this. We find ourselves in those places sometimes, and you just have to remember like, hey, this, you're down for the moment, but you're not out, It's like you've been through this before, you'll get through it again, And so, yeah, that's kind of what the song's about. But Pablo, good to have you. I'm doing pretty good. How have you been, man? Hope you're doing well. You're kind of catching the... you're kind of catching the end of the stream here, but since you just showed up, I'll do one more song for you in a moment here, but I'll kind of catch you up to what's going on. As far as gigs go, I'm currently trying to get another gig. I've still only played the one, but I've contacted a couple places. I've got a buddy who has like a production. I guess it's an event, production company where they run gigs. So. I'm kind of waiting to hear back from him. I contacted a venue, and they said they'd love to have me play, but they're probably not going to be able to book me till October or November, so it's going to be a little while. I've contacted another place, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them, and then I'm probably going to start doing a little bit of research and seeing like what other venues are in my local area. So right now I'm in the process of like just kind of learning which venues I can even contact, and I don't know if they're all going to be like... If they're all like I'm not sure when my next gig's going to be. I have a feeling like once you start booking gigs, you can get into a flow and say like, hey, I'll play here again in like 2 months or something like that. So I think that's how you can get some consistency. But right now, I think first booking gigs, it's like it's gonna be a while till I actually get to play. So that's all that's been going on there. And then of course that song I just played, that's probably the most recent thing that's happened is I've released that song, Move On, and then I've got another song that I'm working on. The song itself is pretty much done. I'm working on my next release. I'm trying to plan out some content for it, so kind of working out some things. Pablo, one thing I mentioned earlier, I actually have things set up to maybe start doing some reactions on these live streams. So I was thinking I would perform some songs and then maybe react to something. So if you ever have any suggestions for that, if that's, first off, is that something you'd like to see? Would you be interested in watching that? And second off, if so, give me some ideas of some things to check out, some things to react to, and I'll take note of it and see if I can work that out. But besides that, for this stream, yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I know I'll get another gig. I'm not sure when it'll be. Like I said, even if I don't get to play my next gig till till October or November, I think I can start, getting gigs more consistently once I start booking them. So it just might take a while to get that started. I think music would be ideal. Just because, I'm certainly trying to promote myself as an artist. It'd be nice to react to things music related. But we'll see, we'll see what happens. If you had something else in mind, I can certainly take note of it and sort of try to decide if that would be good or not. My mic did something weird. Okay, here we go. All right, cool. It's fixed. But I think ideally it would be music stuff. Argentinian bands, that'd be cool. Yeah, if you want to send me some of those, I'll need to, yeah, that'd be cool. Let me think. What was I going to say? One thing I got to figure out is I got to figure out like an easy way for you guys to make recommendations. Definitely, commenting on this video, that's a good one, but I'm probably going to put out like a post of asking for recommendations. And so definitely if you have some bands you want me to check out, definitely, be sure to comment on that post. Earlier, Pablo, we were talking about some of our favorite albums that we grew up with. And so I'd be curious, what are some albums that you grew up with, some things that you would sort of say are kind of like the soundtrack to your life? And then so it's sort of two questions. One, what are some albums you grew up with? And then two, what are some albums that you would say define you as a person? Like now, like if you could pick 5 albums that like pretty much kind of describe like your personality and who you are, what albums would those be? I've already shared mine, but I'll go ahead and share them with you. I'm going to give you like the super quick version. As far as what I grew up with, when I was a kid, I grew up listening to a lot of Stephen Curtis Chapman, Signs of Life. I love this album. And, but this was back before I discovered rock or metal or anything like that. This was just like music that my parents had, and it's what I listened to a lot of. The first group that I actually liked, or the first group that I discovered on my own, and I was like, hey, I like that, is a group called Plus One. I saw a music video and I heard one of their songs and I was like, wow, I really like that. And then I saw this album in the Christian bookstore and I asked my mom if I could get it, and so she bought it for me. So and I still love it. It's a pop album. This was back late 90s, early 2000s. So they're a boy band, kind of like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, but they do have kind of a rock edge or kind of like some rock inspiration to their music, and they have some great songs. I legitimately like this album. It's actually one of my favorites. So, and then probably the third thing I kind of grew up with was Toby Mac. This particular Toby Mac album, Momentum, was kind of around like the nu metal age. So this was like when hip hop and metal were kind of merging a little bit, and so half of this album is like hip hop and half of it's got like heavy guitar songs with rapping over top of it. But it was just a fun album, and it was a good album to like put on and get pumped up to go outside and play or go skateboard or something like that. First few albums that got me like into rock music, or when I was like first getting into rock music, the first albums that I obtained, Reliant K, The Anatomy of Tongue in Cheek. This was kind of a pop punk album, so definitely, when I was getting into skateboarding, getting into punk rock, this was an album I really liked. Pillar, Broken Down, the EP. This is technically an EP, not really an album, but this has acoustic songs, but they're acoustic rock songs. And this album was very influential to me in my guitar playing, some of the chords that I choose, and playing and drop tuning. And then POD, this is classic album, Satellite. Yeah, this was kind of this album and the Pillar one. These were kind of my first introductions to Okay, so the Pillar one is acoustic, but it had one song. The last song was like an actual rock song, a hard rock song with electric guitar, and it had screaming in it. So these two albums were like my first exposure to like some harsher vocals. It was still mostly singing, but it had like those intense vocals, and I was kind of like, that was kind of my first little taste of that. Then it would be Wonder What's Next by Chevelle. I love this album. It's one of my favorite, and this really inspired my guitar playing. Like this probably got me into like starting to write riffs and playing and drop tuning, and definitely influenced like my singing, and kind of trying to learn how to sing like kind of in a rock style voice. Here's Pillar again, same band from before, but this was an actual rock album, with electric guitars. That was a good one. And then this was kind of my screamo phase. This was like when I started getting into hard rock and more of the screaming. So I think of this as my big four. So my big four was Flyleaf. Again, this is just a great album with great songs. And, the first time I heard I'm So Sick and I heard that scream from Lacey, like it was so like shocking. It was like, whoa, that's amazing. That's crazy, but it was attractive, it was cool. I liked the music. The songs were great. Next one, Red, End of Silence. Just really cool, like heavy guitars, but kind of some symphonic, like orchestral stuff in there that was really cool. Kind of cinematic. And then Blindside, The Great Depression. This album, just really cool, like kind of indie vibe to it, and like kind of alternative post-punk kind of sound. And again, more of the kind of harsh vocals, the screaming and stuff. And then like my first straight up like screamo band was Under Oath, Define the Great Line. This was probably the heaviest stuff that I was listening to at the time. And it's funny, I kind of called all of this stuff screamo, but really those first three bands, Flyleaf, Red, and Blindside, they were mostly singing. They just had screaming sections in some of their songs. But Under Oath was primarily screaming. After that, my introduction to metal, I discovered a band called August Burns Red, and the first time I saw a music video by them for their song Your Little Suburbia is in Ruins. First time I heard that song and saw that music video, it was like so intense. I'd never heard drums like that, never heard like heavy guitars and vocals like that, and I wasn't really sure what to think of it. I was kind of like, man, I don't really know what to think about that. But I went away and I was kind of like, I kind of want to hear it again. And so I listened to it again, and I was like, I think I kind of like this. So I got into August Burns Red, and around the same time, my friends were getting into metal, and one of the first metal albums I got was August Burns Red, Messengers. And this album, just the drums were amazing, and the heavy guitar, it was pretty inspiring to me, definitely influential. And then one of my friends, this is a big one for me, gave me this Killswitch Engage album, Killswitch Engage As Daylight Dies. This heavily influenced my songwriting, my guitar playing, and my interest in metalcore. And then another great album that a friend gave to me, All That Remains, The Fall of Ideals. So those were kind of the main three that I listened to when I was first getting into metal. Let me see what's going on in the chat here. Let me think. Yep, cool, yep. And that's right, DC Talk. I never had any DC Talk albums, but of course, Jesus Freak was like a super popular song when I was a kid. And I don't even think, like when I first got into Toby Mac, I don't know if I knew that he was a part of DC Talk. I think I discovered that later. But yeah, Momentum, that was a good album to grow up with. And yeah, I was curious. I had a feeling... That's awesome. Yeah, I had a feeling you might kind of like, because I've talked to you before, I know we like a lot of the same artists. So I was kind of curious. That's why I wanted to share this with you, because I was like, I bet Pablo knows a lot of these bands. So, logos. Interesting. Some Argentinian. I'll have to check those out, man. I'll look those up. Ride the Lightning. I think that's a pretty classic Metallica album. That's a cool choice right there. And yeah, Petra, I didn't listen to a whole lot of Petra, but I had some friends who mentioned them to me, and I've checked out some of their stuff. Unseen Power, DC Talk, the first album, Toby Mac Momentum, Welcome to Diversity,
Blindside was another. About a Burning Fire. Yep, that's a good album too. My introduction to Blindside was The Great Depression. That was the first album I got, but of course, checking out more of their stuff, I discovered some of their older songs. So, About a Burning Fire. Yep, For Today is a good band too. I never had any of their albums, so I wasn't exposed to a lot of them, but I am familiar with that band. But yeah, so let me ask you now, Pablo. So, if you had to pick five, and Raul, and if you're still out there too, and Stan, I know you mentioned some. I don't know if you mentioned like five, but if you guys could pick 5 albums that sort of like describe you as a person, define you as a person, what would those 5 albums be? So I'm going to cheat a little bit, or I did this earlier, and I sort of cheated, and I'm going to do 2 different definitions. So one, there's 5 albums that define me as a person, just kind of who I am, and these are albums of different genres. But then I'm also going to do 5 albums that define me as an artist, the kind of music that I play for you guys, sort of the albums that inspire that. So albums that define me as a person, if I had to pick 5, it's really tough to do, but I think I'd go with these 5. So at the top left, we got Plus One, because I do like pop music. Like, yes, I love metal, I love heavy guitars, love that kind of stuff, but I still like a good old pop song. I like, a good beat and some electronic elements and things like that. I appreciate good vocals. And so I feel like Plus One, that's a good album to sort of cover the pop side of my interest. Another artist I really like, I enjoy acoustic guitar and piano. And so when it comes to that kind of music, Ben Folds was hugely influential to me as a pianist. Piano was actually the first instrument I learned how to play, but I didn't really like a lot of piano music. But when I discovered Ben Folds, I was like, wow, this is, I've never heard piano played like that before. And so he got me back into piano. So if I had to pick one Ben Folds album, I think I'd go with Rock in the Suburbs. But another album that I would mention is Super Sunny Speed Graphic, is what it's called. Super Sunny Speed Graphic, the LP. That's my other favorite Ben Folds album. Really, they're a tie. I love both of them. But I think this one maybe better defines me. And then I also like punk rock. I like pop punk. And so I got to go Reliant K. That was kind of an album, again, just has great songs and a lot of variation on there. They got like soft, tender songs, but then they have the upbeat, kind of fun, clever songs. And I feel like their sense of humor, they kind of have a quirky, clever sense of humor that I think is kind of similar to my own. So I feel like that's a good album to sort of describe my personality a bit. And then when we start getting into metal, Killswitch Engage, As Daylight Dies. Again, that album's just hugely influential to me, and I think just my taste in music and the kind of sounds that I like, I think that's a great album to sort of like kind of demonstrate what I like. And then when we're talking like progressive metal and technical, it was really tough not to pick Extol, but if I had to pick one band, I think I got to go between The Buried and Me, and I chose the album The Parallax 2. And the reason I went with them is because they combine so many other genres within their music, and their albums are just so creative. Like there's just it just demonstrates creativity, and that's something like I'm just a creative person. I enjoy creativity. I enjoy unique things and the process of that kind of stuff. So I think that's a good album to define me as like a person. Now, if we're talking about me as an artist, and one second, let me see here. POD, Satellite, Pable on Death is 5. The soundtrack of Halo, yeah. Image and Words from Dream Theater. Extol the Blueprint Divine, or dupe. Is it The Blueprint Dies? I think that is right. Unless, is it The Blueprint Divine, or am I confusing that with another Extol title? But I've actually, I had a few songs from that album, and I need to get the rest of them. I've been checking that out. That's a great album. That's an interesting album, too, because I know they didn't have Ola with them when they did that one. But it's still like, and they kind of went like a different direction a little bit with that album, but I think what they came up with is really cool. So, yeah, that's a great album. Now, for me as an artist, again, as an artist, it depends on the style of music because, the kind of music I write acoustically, obviously, I have different inspirations for that. And even for this, like, I have so many influences. So the 5 albums I'm about to mention, these are not my only 5 influences. There are other artists, other albums, other songs that have inspired me. But if I had to pick 5, I think the best 5 I could pick would be these. So at number 1, we've got Pillar, Broken Down EP. And the main thing I described, this one, a lot of just the tones, like the musical tones, the kind of chords, the kind of melodies that they were playing. Even though it's acoustic music, the kind of vibe that EP has was very influential to me. And I sort of explained earlier in guitar, playing in drop tuning, they use a lot of 9th chords in Pillar. And I just love the way that sounds. So I'll demonstrate real quick. So here's like regular power chords. And then the same chords with 9ths. Just sounds like so much cooler, and it has like this nice emotional kind of vibe to it that I really like. So yeah, Pillar was very influential in that way. Chevelle, one of my favorites. I love the album Wonder What's Next, but if I had to pick one, I think I'd go with this one. This Type of Thinking Could Do Us In. Chevelle, a lot of my alternative rock stuff is very much straight up inspired by Chevelle. Even the new song, Move On. Like, that riff is very, like, Chevelle inspired, So, I would say it's indirectly. It's not like I was listening to Chevelle and was like, I'm going to write that, but when I wrote that riff, just the kind of sounds that inspire me, definitely Chevelle stuff. And Pete Loeffler is the name of the vocalist, and he's actually one of my favorite vocalists in rock and metal. I really like his singing voice, so... and they just write good songs, so very inspiring. Flyleaf, I love the sounds that Flyleaf make. They just write great songs. The songs are catchy. Songs are all just like all killer, no filler. Like just good stuff. And even though Lacey is a female vocalist, I still draw inspiration from her as a vocalist, like the way she sings. I draw influence from that. And yeah, so just trying to write like good, rocking, catchy songs, but again, being very dynamic. They've got like soft songs, and then they've got like the really hard, aggressive ones. So that's just been very inspiring to me in my songwriting. Killswitch Engage, hugely influential. Probably one of the biggest things with Killswitch Engage was like the structure. Killswitch would sort of alternate between these really heavy riffs. Like in the verse, they might have a heavy riff. And they'll have like harsh vocals over that. And then the chorus, they'll have like these really pretty chords. Like it's distorted and it's upbeat, but if you were to like kind of take the distortion away, they're playing really pretty chords. So just hearing those chords, but hearing it in metal, like hearing it with distorted guitars and heavy drums, it was like, that was hugely influential to me. And just the kind of melodies that they chose, that very much inspired me. And then lastly, I wanted to pick like a technical influence, like a very technical artist. And again, it was hard not to go with, I could have gone with Between the Buried and Me, I could have gone with Extol, could have gone with The Faceless, but I decided to go with Sylosis, this album, Dormant Heart, because Sylosis really made me a better guitarist. Like, I didn't really play that many guitar solos before Sylosis, but when I discovered them, it definitely improved my guitar playing, and in my, I learned how to sweep pick, and I got better at alt picking, and I just started kind of featuring more solos in my songs, and but along with that, they just write really good riffs, and they're very catchy, even though they're they're heavy, but they're catchy. They're very dynamic. They're technical. They're tight. There's just so much influence that I draw from Sylosis. So if you like the sound of my music, these are not the only artists, but these are definitely some albums that have inspired the kind of sounds that I create. So if you're not familiar with any of these, definitely check out some of these artists. You might come to like them. So Pablo, I'm going to play one more song, and then I think I'm going to call it a wrap on this stream. I got to get home and get some dinner. I don't know if you have a request. I don't know if there's a song that you would like me to play, but I'm going to read your comments here. But yeah, if there is a certain song of mine that you'd like me to play, I'll play it for you, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Let's see here. Yep, Blueprint, great album. Chevelle, I don't know that band. Yeah, Chevelle's one of my favorites. I would recommend checking out the albums Wonder What's Next and This Type of Thinking Could Do Us In. So those are my two favorite albums by them. So yeah, give those a listen. Yep, As I Lay Dying and Ocean Between Us is another album. I remember having that one with friends. And then, yeah, Sylosis, they're a good one. I would recommend either checking out the album Dormant Heart or actually their latest album, Cycle of Suffering. That one's really good. And then they had an earlier album called Edge of the Earth that has some pretty amazing guitar playing on it. So, yeah, Sylosis is like one of my top favorite metal bands. Definitely top 10, maybe top 5, like they're up there with Extol, for me. Cool. So yeah, so Pablo, I don't know if you have a request, if there's a certain song, that, if you even know the titles to all my songs, I don't know if you do. And if you don't have a request, you can just say Hard Goodbyes. All right. Gotcha. Yep. Because it is hard to say goodbye in this situation. So I'm going to play Hard Goodbyes for you, and then we're going to call this a wrap. So here we go. Let me bring it up real quick. All right, here we go. This one's for you, Pablo. This one's called Hard Goodbyes. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, Pablo. And again, I'll probably send out some kind of post where people can comment and make requests for reactions and stuff. So just keep an eye out for that. But let's see. Thanks, man. I'm glad you liked that one. That one keeps me on my toes, you know, because a few people like it, so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to keep playing this song, so I gotta practice the solo, because it's a tough solo. Thanks, Pablo. Appreciate that. Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, anyone watching now or on the replay. This concludes the stream. If you'd like to support me, there is a link in the description to a virtual tip jar, and I certainly appreciate that. If you don't have the financial means to support me, my biggest goal right now is building an audience. So there's another link to a sign up for my email list. Signing up, that allows me to contact you and share with you, you know, when I've got new releases, new content, live stream things coming out. But, you know, just sharing my content, liking the video, inviting people to come to the streams, sharing my videos and stuff, you know, all that really helps me in building an audience. So that's my biggest goal right now. So that I definitely appreciate those of you sharing my content. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all tuning in. I think that's going to be it for this stream. I'm going to post a few links in the chat in a moment here, but thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening or morning, night, afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you're in the world. Until next time.